Years ago, this land was inhabited by Native Americans. Many tribes came and went with the times, and eventually settlers came on by in the early 1700s and established land that would become to be known as Adams County, Ohio. And in this series, we're going to explain the story of this seemingly insignificant county in southwestern Ohio that actually has a lot more to do with the world's history than you may think. Now, few care to realize it, but right now, right here in Adams County, Ohio, you are actually in the Appalachian Plateau and in the foothills of America's Appalachian Mountains, which are amongst the 10 oldest mountain ranges in the entirety of the Earth. And these mountains were formed, of course, millions of years ago. Well, far before any human would have been around to even witness the formation of these hills. But nonetheless, it's impressive, these hills. Not only with their features and their rugged cliffs, but also the fact that they are actually older than trees themselves. Most will recognize John Denver's song, "Take Me Home Country Roads." In that song, John Denver mentions that life is old there, older than the trees. And that's not just any simple rhyme. It is actually historically accurate that these mountains are older than trees themselves. Now, I can drop the times exactly. I don't remember off the top of my head how much older than trees they are. I just know that it's a couple million years. I believe Ohio was actually still a shallow ocean at the time that these mountains were formed. And people overshadow Adams County and Scioto County and the neighboring counties that feature these Appalachian foothills. And they favor other places like Asheville, North Carolina, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. When in reality, everything you can get down there, you can find right here in Adams County. Call it a little bit of like a hidden gem, would you? And yeah, right now we are hiking the trail here that leads up 400 feet and gives you a view of the Ohio Brush Creek Valley, one of the oldest tributaries of the Ohio River, which is, like the Appalachians, being one of the oldest mountain ranges in the world. The Ohio River remains one of the oldest continuously flowing rivers in the world as well. So A lot of ancient history right here in Adams County, right on the edge of what most would consider the main Appalachian Mountains of the United States. Where was my hood?
You had it clear.
The wrong hood.
What?
Dude, this was the hood.
Oh. I got this.
Lit. What does the hood is?
As long as the backpack's covered.
Wait, I got you, Sam.
Is the backpack covered?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, then we're good.
Now, it's interesting to note that given Ohio's glacial and shallow ocean past, that these cliffs down here in southwestern Ohio, which are present right here in Adams County, were actually formed, like the rest of the Appalachian Mountains actually, by the movement of tectonic plates. And these dramatic limestone, shale, sandstone, all the different sedimentary rocks that make up these cliffs were actually brought up with the movement of the North American tectonic plates, and not the carving of the glaciers that actually stopped 12 miles north of the Serpent Mound site, right near Locust Grove and Peebles. You can see just the various layers of this rock that have been exposed over time from erosion. But this is in fact sedimentary rock, and you can tell by the once again, as I said, by the layers which are present in the rock faces. And that actually comes from the sediment on the ocean floors of the shallow seas that once occupied land that is now known as Ohio.
By losing it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it could be 60, no problem.
Oh, yeah.
It's a nice bird. I like it.
As long as there's no ice in there, it's a civil core. What they did is after the Depression, they tried to create jobs for people. So it goes, oh, well, let's build some new roads, or let's build a dam over here, or whatever. And so they came here, and they brought a big crane in and some dozers. And there's a big bluff right here. And it was all fractured from the impact. So they didn't need to use dynamite or anything. They just had to hit it with the crane and the dozer. And they had road fill. Kind of like crushed stone from a quarry.
Yeah.
And that's what the road bed for Route 73 is built out of, is the rock that came out of the Silurian bedrock. It's about 425 million years old.
Really?
And it's all fractured from the crater, from the impact. And all those layers there are nice and straight, what we call linear, okay? And you swing around this way, and you look at how they're twisted.
Yeah.
And everything is just from the shockwave. And it's all happened underwater, so, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
On the surface of that rock, it's kind of white looking. In the summertime, it gets real white. And there's a mineral on the surface that hydrates on there, or rehydrates. It's called epsonite. It's what they make Epsom salts out of. It's kind of cool. You can taste it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It's not poisonous or anything. It's just kind of neat to see that it's there. So, but that's the Peebles dolomite. This is what Plum Run Quarry is famous for. And there's iron zinc in there called sphalerite. There's smithsonite. There's all these weird minerals mixed up in that. But there's nothing from the asteroid in here. Everything on the asteroid is that one site where the breccia is located.
Really?
Yeah. So it's real concentrated there, but not like at Serpent Mound or here. Like when we did Ancient Aliens, you know, we told them about the iridium and stuff that was at that one site, and next thing you know, they're saying ancient astronaut theorists say they were mining iridium at Serpent Mound.
Yeah.
Well, who's mining iridium at Serpent Mound? And then they pointed to those caves, those sinkholes. Well, those are natural formations. They're not man-made. But that's the way they like to...
They like to paint their picture.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, this is the only... You definitely need a hammer to break it. But you can see how it's fractured, you know, which is why they used it. That's about the best shot that you're going to get of the Western Rim. You can drive up on top of it. If you do, it'll take you out. It'll take you out to a Y in the road. If you follow the road around instead of going straight, it'll take you to Tranquility, 770. Yeah, I mean that's about as good a shot as you're going to get of the Western Rim. There it is. Okay. So you know the breccia, you could break that with your hand, right? You need a hammer to break that because it hasn't been altered. So that's what all this road fill is. All around here is just the crushed stone. But the breccia, this clay is just, it's rock that's been pulverized. But for whatever reason, it only occurs across this area here.
Do you think it's more because it was in the direct, like, impact radius of the...
You can see it's just a really soft material. And within this, you'll see this...
Yeah, that looks nasty.
But you guys come back on your own. Well, here. It's always white. It'll show up as white. And it's got a little facing on it. That might be a piece. Let's see. I found some nice pieces in this ditch line before. What's this one? That's calcite. That's it. You found it. Hey! Good job. So that one, we'll take it back and put the black light on it, see if it fluoresces. There may even be phosphorescence in it.
Oh.
So that's what it looks like. Like this is probably a piece of it right here. Nope. That's off the road.
Do you find more or less after like rain?
Yeah,
like
this is perfect, isn't it? Had a chance to wash something out for it.
Yeah.
And this roadbed that we're standing on, in the wintertime, it's we brought a group down here from Clark State University, and we had a whole big van. We had like 12 guys, and we parked in this road
Yeah.
down there at the Breccia site. And we all got out. It was one of those winter days when everything's kind of thawing out. You know? We're out there picking up rocks and loading it into the van. Gets in the van. The professor turns the key on, hits the gear shift knob. The van don't go anywhere.
Huh.
What the hell? We all get out. The van was sunk down to the axles,
Really?
right to the door panel. This road is like quicksand in the wintertime
Huh.
because of this material, because that's what it's built out of. So you can stand there, you know, and you can almost,
Yeah.
it's soft, you know, it's not hard.
Uh-huh.
So we all got out. Everybody, we lifted up the van, set it down, away we went. All the way around the uplift. The uplift is where that house is sitting, okay?
Okay.
This little hill right here is called a downfall. It's called the inner graben. So imagine a tit, right? There's the nipple, okay? And this is the little red part around it, the areola.
Huh.
And so what happened when it hit, the shock wave went down and lifted up the center on a rebound. The rebound shock wave came up and lifted everything up vertically. And then it created a void, and that void was filled in by the surrounding bedrock that collapsed. So this is the collapsed rock that we're on. And if you were to core drill this, which has already been done, it's on a 45-degree angle sloping in. So this whole block all the way around here. If you look at craters on the moon, just for an example, you'll see that inner graben. And sometimes you'll see a second or a third graben around it, depending on how big the impact was. So that's one thing that defines this as an asteroid. Pretty interesting. The rocks in this bluff, let's see if we can see if there's any little teeny rock sticking out. It looks like a finely bedded shale. There's a little bit right there. It look like little feathers, okay?
Okay.
That's Devonian rock. It's 350 million years old, okay? And it came from up on that ridge. That ridge is the eastern rim, okay?
Okay.
So that rim is made out of that. Ohio shale, they call it, all right? That came down, that slid down the rim while it was in the ocean. Okay, you gotta imagine there was this huge hole in the bottom of the ocean, right? And through time, it got scoured out. And then gravity pushed everything down the eastern rim and filled in the floor of the crater with this rock, okay?
Okay.
That's totally out of place because it's younger than the rock underneath of it, or how should I say, the rock that's on the rim of the crater right now is Silurian age. It's 425 million, all right?
Okay.
We just came off of an uplift that was 438 million years old, and it's the highest point of the crater, and it's the oldest point. The floor of the crater is the youngest point. It should be the oldest. It's the youngest because everything slid down the eastern side of the crater and filled it in. A little bit there.
Oh, yeah.
See that black material there? That's the Ohio shale, okay?
Okay.
And then that's 350 million. And then right over top of it sloughs in the Mississippian that's younger, 320 million. If you go in this little creek right here, there's a spot back there where the People's Dolomite is cropped out. Okay? You can touch the People's Dolomite, which is 425 million years old. You're standing on a rock that's 350 million years old below it, which is geologically impossible. Okay? That's what brought me to this area. I read some notes by a guy named John Locke back in 1830. And he was like the first geologist in the United States. And he made note of this area because it was so unique. Geologically, it was upside down. So he wrote this whole little passage in a book, and I read it, and I go, hey, you're not going to go see that.
Yeah.
Because I end up getting stuck here, right?
Yeah. A fish mound.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like in the shape of a fish?
In the shape of a fish, 120 feet long. And the head of the fish has a big hole in it where somebody had excavated it. Well, Squire Davis in 1847 mapped that fish out, as well as Serpent Mound and other mounds. And people from Europe came over here and dug that mound up.
Oh.
They brought out a fish pipe. The fish pipe is in a collection in Switzerland, and I got a chance to hold it and sell it. I had it for a year, a consignment here in Adams County. This black steatite looked just like a carp, had big scales on it, had a bowl in the top of it. You take the smoke in through the mouth, all right?
Okay.
And it was $6,000.
What?
And I had it, and yeah, I didn't have the money to buy it. I gave
Yeah.
it back to my collector friend over in Europe. It's back in their collection. And a few weeks after I give it back, this guy shows up wanting to buy it. I'm going like, oh, dude. So I gave him the information. I said, you want to go over to Europe and, you know, maybe you can get it. But I got to hold the pipe that came out of that mound.
That's cool.
That was pilfered, if you will. And you think all that rock that was up on top there slid down and filled the crater in on the bottom. It's kind of crazy.
It is.
But you also have to imagine the Appalachian Mountains were the oldest and largest mountain chain in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just molehills. There it is.
The shale.
Yeah, that's natural. That's like the way it was in the sea bottom. But this is what's down there in the bottom of the crater. It's kind of cool just to see it.
It is cool.
Now in this material here, there is giant placoderms and sharks.
Oh, really?
So the placoderms went up to 35 feet long. And then the sharks, I've seen a couple of sharks so far in that black shale. They're like 3 or 4 years ago. Before this crater was made, this intrude was here, and there was giant fish, armored fish in it. It's the state vertebrate fossil in Ohio. It's the nucleosis, they call it. Well, within that shale there, that finely bedded black shale, you can also find reeds, like an inch wide, 3 feet long. So yeah, that's what's in there.
There's a cat. It's encompasses the library.
Walking alongside Ohio's largest effigy mound and arguably one of the most important world heritage sites in all of the United States and perhaps North America itself too. The Great Serpent Mound. Age and exact purpose debated. Although, if you know the right people to listen to, you'll start to uncover the truth of this mound's origin and purpose that is otherwise hidden by mainstream archaeology and scientists for no reason other than to gatekeep and, you know, silence other views to ensure that their views remain the ones that stay in school textbooks and history books for decades to come. Even though what they previously thought they knew is wrong. But here, as part of this series, we're not going to hide the actual history like they do. I'm going to try to present the real history as the Native Americans know it, and as great scientists and historians like Jeffrey Wilson, Thomas Johnson, and even Graham Hancock have come to expose to the light of the world. So the observation tower is currently closed, but using our magical 6-foot tallness and 0.5 view on the Apple phone camera, you can kind of make out that this is in fact the head of the serpent. And from this point on the head, it lines up perfectly with the coil, which is behind the trees that way. And from the head to the coil is perfect astrological north and south. Now, how did the Native Americans know that? We wouldn't
It's kind
know.
of backwards, but it does line up.
Yep. As you see on the compass there, it is perfect from north to south from this point, along with many other points that align with certain portions of the mound, as I have drawn up here in my sketchbook. We are standing right about there where the question mark is, and there actually used to be two eyeball-like structures along the side of the head, which were bulldozed to make the path which we stand on right now. But as you can see from the coil right below us, it aligns perfectly with the summer solstice sunrise. From the head over that way, if I can get the camera to focus, aligns perfectly with the summer solstice sunset, and among other different sunrises and sunsets. Now, how did the Native Americans know this? Were they assisted in some way by another culture? Perhaps, perhaps not. But we don't know, and we may never know. It's only a matter of time before somebody finds out. So we are filming this in April, which is a couple months off from the summer solstice itself, but this right here would be the point in which the sunset aligns almost perfectly with the head of the serpent, which is directly behind us up the hill. And this is one of Graham Hancock's main points into uncovering the true age of Serpent Mound, being the sunset of the summer solstice. Given the perfect alignments of everything else on the mound, it would be kind of strange to consider that they would build the head in such a way that the sunset is ever so slightly off. Now, it was perfect at one point, that point being approximately 13,000 or so years ago, long before the Fort Ancient, or the Adena, which historians suspect built the mound here, would have even been in this part of Ohio. Now, the Paleo Indians came to northern Ohio approximately 13,000 years ago, but these people were more on the primitive side, would you say. They only made what they needed and what they absolutely deemed necessary. They traveled light. They didn't build structures like this. They mainly lived their lives following the herd of buffalo and elk and mastodon, which served as their primary food sources. So that basically debunks the mainstream archaeologists and historians' viewpoint that this Serpent Mound here was actually built by the Fort Ancient, or the Adena, and was certainly built by another older, perhaps even more unknown as of now, other Native American culture that is still yet to be given a name or fully accepted by the mainstream archaeologists and historians. Now this is the circular mound right at the edge of the Serpent's Mouth, and its exact I'll say what it exactly symbolizes is debated, whether it's the sun or an egg itself. We may know, we may never know, but if you notice right here at the edge of the egg or sun is a smaller little hill that is wrapped by the path which surrounds the entirety of Serpent Mound. And it is right here where an ancient monolith once stood, with its purpose exactly being unknown, but it would have aligned directly with the summer solstice sunset, much like the rest of the head here in the egg-shaped mound. And that monolith can actually be found at the bottom of the cliff here, and we're going to see if we can find it on the trail which wraps around the Ohio Brush Creek in the bottom of the mound. But from right here you can see and kind of get a general understanding of the vastness of the mouth itself and this orb in which the serpent is seemingly swallowing with its mighty jaws. So we're standing at the overlook point of the coil of the serpent, and if you paid attention close back to our crater portion of the video, you will see that the southwesternmost rim of the crater is literally right over there, and Serpent Mound is right here tucked just within the outermost rim, over there being the small community of Loudon, and right below us being the mighty Ohio Brush Creek. Right over there would be the head of the serpent from the center of the coil over here, as Brandon is demonstrating with the compass. Aligns perfectly with astrological north and south. From the bottom of the head of the serpent, you can see just how impressive of a ridge in which Serpent Mound is constructed atop of. And some say that the ridge itself almost kind of sort of looks like a serpent. Now, some enhanced imaging would help with it, but right above us would be the head of Serpent Mound, and right below here is suspected to be a rock from the monolith which once stood right in front of the head of the serpent, and right there may very well be a piece as well. But may also just note while we're down here that this ridge was not formed as a result of the asteroid which struck and created the crater here. Rather, this would have been a result of carving from erosion from the Ohio Brush Creek, which is the embankment right behind me here. Now, they say that Serpent Mound's, the actual body of the serpent, aligns perfectly with the symmetry of the natural ridge here itself, further backing the idea that the Native Americans perhaps had a deeper understanding of not only the stars and the cosmos, but as well as the natural land features in which they lived as well. In this rock ledge, there's also caves, which some Native American cultures considered paths to other dimensions. Now, as Thomas Johnson mentioned to us earlier, those outcroppings in the caves are perfectly natural and are results of erosion and whatnot. But you never know. Now, I keep running across it time and time again, and the more time I spend out here, the more I realize that this truly is a magical land. Or to put it in a more professional sense, it's just a really impressive land out here. People drive 5-6 hours from Cincinnati down south to places like Asheville, North Carolina, and Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and they'll see some stuff like this, and the majority led, considering that is the strong point of the Appalachian Mountains. But out here in what's called the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, you can find most of the same things, if not more impressive features than you can find down in those more popular places. And here we have them right here in little old Adams County, Ohio, thanks to majestic features such as the Ohio Brush Creek and the asteroid crater and formation of the Appalachian Mountains, along with Ohio's ancient history of being a sea bottom. And just 12 miles north of here is where the last American glacier stopped, up the road in Highland and Pike County. But just goes to show, if you slow down and just explore some of these little mapped out destinations, you can truly uncover some of the sheer awesomeness that is here. These otherwise secret gems of Ohio's Appalachian counties. Go.
So, I was thinking, if the crater messes with all the compass and like magnetic stuff, how in the world does that line up with the compass?
Can we read this?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
That's a very good point. How astrological north and south isn't affected here,
But why is it?
but it
everywhere
is
else in the
everywhere
crater?
else.
Because it was weird when on our drive here, we were driving west and it was pointing
Yeah.
north.
Driving west in the direction that we were driving on, the compass was pointing north, being we were driving on Route 73 from Locust Grove to here, which is sandwiched in between Locust Grove and Loudon, which is an east to west axis, and the compass was pointing as if it were a north to south. But yet
Why
here
would it point right here?
at the Serpent Mound, where it is perfect north and south, from the head of the serpent to the coil, it's unaffected.
Is it like immune here? Or did they? I don't know. I'm confused.
So one of the reasons that most mainstream historians and archaeologists would contribute the Serpent Mound to being a part of the Adena culture is this confirmed Adena burial mound right here just before the Serpent Mound, which is over where the watchtower is, of course. And it's interesting to note that the Adena did not build effigy mounds. Effigy mounds being mounds in the shape of an animal, which do not hold remains themselves. However, the Adena built exclusively burial mounds, in which were, you know, tombs for Native Americans who had passed on, which is like the mound that I'm circling right now, and not in the liking of the Serpent Mound. Now, out of one of these smaller burial mounds, which can be attributed to the many different Native American cultures who came after the mound builders of the Serpent Mound, they all, or at least all the tribes who ever graced Ohio, have left artifacts or something here at some point, whether it be a whole other mound or different types of arrowheads and tools and carbon dated charcoal from campfires and cooking fires and whatnot. But in one of these mounds of an unknown culture, or maybe it is known but just hidden, there were 8-foot and 9-foot tall skeletal remains found in one of these burial mounds along the side. It is thought that Native Americans, or perhaps even, I'll throw out the idea that these are what we think of currently as Sasquatch or Bigfoot, were the subjects of these massive skeletal remains, which were uncovered and taken and hidden when they were uncovered in the 1800s due to the ongoing American and Native American conflicts. The U.S. government didn't want to paint any picture that Native Americans may have an advanced understanding or perhaps even advanced stature than that of normal white Americans at the time. So unfortunately, much of this information has been lost to time and might never be uncovered again. But just to point out that this is why most of the mainstream archaeologists and historians have attributed the mound's age to being somewhere a little more than 1,000 to 2,800 years old, and not Graham Hancock's estimate of 13,000 years old.
And one more time, straight up that hill again. How deep the water runs, how close the devil crawls.